I think when I gave the 30-minute warning, I think I was 30 minutes on the. Oh, man. 29 minutes. Oh, well. To be early is on time, or whatever that old saying is. But just when you thought it was gone, just when you thought it was over, the Monday after triumphantly returns in December during the NASCAR offseason. We got a lot of drama going on. We got a lot of intensity going on. We have a lot of harsh words being said. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the controversy. Let's talk about the drama. Let's talk about all the high stakes emotions. Let's talk about Lane Kiffin leaving for LSU. No, I'm just kidding. We're obviously not here to talk about Lane Kiffin. We're here to talk. Okay, I should probably undo that. Bam. Yes. We are here to talk about NASCOURT. Yes, the lawsuit between the teams, between NASCAR. NASCAR, for those of you who don't know, is being sued by two teams, 23XI and Front Row Motorsports. The lawsuit started today. So rather than bookmarking all the tweets, I liked them, and we're going to go through it that way. We're going to look at some of the details that happened in the court today. We're going to look at some of the other random things that happened. But hello, David. Welcome. Welcome to the other 6 people who are here with David. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's just start talking about it. There's no script for this thing. There is no normal thing. There is no normal concept or anything like that for this. We are just simply going to talk about this until we feel satisfied about day one. I cannot guarantee we're going to do this every day. I am actually out of town at the tail end of next week when this thing still could be going on. But we are going to hit some of the main points, hit some of the heavy parts of this. And yeah, this is Twitter. I cannot predict what happens on Twitter. As I said, we are going through, I liked a bunch of stuff on the Twitter, and now we are here and we're going to look at it. Some of these tweets are not going to be related. We will skip over those, but congratulations. Ever since Elon made likes public, you can now publicly look at my likes for a few. I have 170,000 likes. Well, you'll get to see about 50 of them. Hello, Matt Smith. Yes, it has been a while, 36 hours. But anyways, okay. So there was a jury selected. If you guys did not listen to Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi's podcast, they had some funny stories about what went down in the jury selection. So as an expert on the court, by that I mean I had jury duty once and I did not get selected. So I have no experience. I do not know anything about the law. I am not a lawyer. Any legal opinion I have will be wrong. This is a common folks' perspective on this lawsuit. So, jury got sworn in. Today was the first day of the trial. First, they had to get a jury. Then they did opening statements. And then Denny Hamlin testified, or he was a witness. He was questioned. And that will continue into tomorrow. So, I don't remember where I was going with all of that. But I hope the term NASCOURT is not legally contracted because I'd rather not get sued, and ironically enough. But anywho, let's go through it. So the jury got sworn in. There is a jury. Back to the original point. There were some really funny stories from Bianchi and Gluck about the jury selection process. And, some jurors get dismissed because they have important things going on. They got to go take care of their kid. They got a sick parent and they got to go take care of their parent. They have an important work meeting that they can't get out of. And, they'll, like when you go to court, like when I went to jury duty and I was on a much smaller level, I was like, 2-day maximum. They told you, hey, you got one deferral. Like you can push back to a month from now. So theoretically you could do that. Like if you had I think they said someone had a friend's wedding that he had to be to, or a brother's wedding, something like that. So you have some things you can get out of it. Some are legit, like no way that we're going to turn you down and make you stay here. As I said, like you got to go pick up your kids. But then Gluck and Bianchi said a guy, there's a 2-day waiting period for him for sod to be put down in his yard, and that they did not They did not let him do that, I don't think, because that is not important enough to be prioritized over the court. Anyways, let's get back to the main thing. So, we're not going to go in like chronological order. I like these in whatever order I did. So first things up, let's talk about the jury, according to this tweet from Bob Pockers, who was on site. So as we can see here, something with childcare. Someone had to go take care of their kids, so they needed a different juror. There will likely be 7 men and 2 women on the jury. 3 jurors will be alternates. A couple potential jurors earlier were dismissed because they were huge Michael Jordan fans and felt like they couldn't be impartial. They appeared giddy just to walk by Jordan in the courtroom. So yeah, this is ultimately, I think, what one of the biggest issues coming into this case was, and that is Michael Jordan is involved. And I, once again, not a legal expert, but from the common folks' perspective, that seems like a huge advantage for the teams. If you are a juror, and let's just say, I don't know how it works, but everyone's already in the courtroom, the lawyers are lined up at their table, the witnesses and the public and the reporters are all in the seats behind the bench, and you walk into the courtroom. Everyone stands up for the judge, and you see this giant guy tower over. Your eyes adjust to the giant guy, and you're like, oh my God, that's Michael Jordan. That's going to play an advantage, unless, you know, he's being tried for murder or something, which reminds me of that case in the 90s. That's more than likely you're going to be like, oh my God, that's Michael Jordan. This is so cool. I'm in a court case with Michael Jordan. That's surely going to be somewhat of a factor, you would think. From the common folks' perspective, I would think that would play some sort of factor. So I think that's a big deal for 2311 to have Michael Jordan in the courtroom in some way, shape, or form. He is their corporate representative or something. Each side is allowed one. NASCAR has Jim France. The teams chose Michael Jordan naturally because they want Michael Jordan in there, because just him being there, he doesn't even have to say anything. He is an influence, a massive influence. He's one of the most known faces across the planet. So, there we go. So there were some other funny stories. We'll get to those in the Twitter likes. Jeff Gluck reported that Judge Bell, Kenneth Bell, not Christopher Bell, he ruled that Denny Hamlin and Curtis Polk will be barred from the courtroom until their testimony. The judge said he very reluctantly ruled this way because, quote, I really do wish you could be here, end quote. But NASCAR invoked a rule about only having one corporate representative. Okay, that is the terminology per side, which is already Michael Jordan, and the judge said he's wary of triggering a legal technicality over this, only wants to try this case once. Excuse me. They can be in the room for opening statements later today, but then must leave until their testimony has concluded. And right now, Denny Hamlin is in the middle of his testimony. So once Denny Hamlin finishes up his testimony tomorrow, I'm pretty sure that means he can stay for the rest of it, or unless he has to wait for Curtis Polk. I don't really know what that. Anywho. All right, next one. Judge said his goal is to have this case go to trial only once, indicating he wasn't going to risk an appeals court saying he must have a new trial if he ruled to allow Hamlin and Polk hear other witnesses before their testimony. So yeah, there's been a lot of talk about potential appeals. Now, I think the thought is, at least from what I've read, is that whoever loses this is more than likely going to appeal in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if that means it goes to completely another trial, or if it's just a shorter, reduced, kind of like the NASCAR penalty process. You know, you get the penalty, you go through this long process and you get penalized, and then the appeals process is a super quick thing, usually, I think. Sometimes. It used to be more complicated. So I don't know how long the appeals take, and then there were talks that you could appeal it and try to go from one area of court to another, and then somehow it ends up at the Supreme Court. I don't know. That sounded really complicated. I don't know enough about that. This is really funny from Michael Massey. As I said, man, Michael Jordan, he's a massive influence, and this is a prime example. No. Okay, I was about to say, there's a few different stories about people seeing MJ and saying they couldn't hold back their biases. The jury has been selected. 9 people were chosen out of over 30 candidates. One person said he used to watch NASCAR, but now NASCAR is killing NASCAR. Judge Bell couldn't cut him off fast enough, and he was asked to leave. He pointed at MJ on the way out. So I'm assuming, because he brought up that NASCAR is killing NASCAR, I'm assuming this guy or woman, this person, that they are anti-NASCAR and that it was like a go get him, pal. I'm assuming it was one of those. I could be wrong. Once again, I was not there. But the way this tweet reads is that Judge Bell was having to cut this guy off to ruin or to cut off any potential biases or influences to other jurors, because I'm assuming all the jurors are right there. So that's a pretty funny one. Denver, welcome. If NASCAR wins, which they won't, do you see a split? I hope not. If there's a split, we got problems. We got really, really big problems. You guys got to witness that. I'm an idiot, as always. Well then, okay. What was I saying? Yeah, hopefully we don't get a split. I don't know who's going to win. I mean, obviously, from the public's perspective right now, NASCAR doesn't look too good because of all of those different documents and texts that came out, and it was really kind of a NASCAR stepping on their own foot kind of thing with the insults and saying Richard Childress needed to be flogged. But let's go to the next one. Major ruling from... we already talked about that. Oh, yes. Yeah, so you see, as I said, man, Michael Jordan, this live stream I should just rename to The Influence of Michael Jordan. A bunch of NASCAR executives are walking to the courthouse, and someone coming out of an office building says something like, "Are those Jordan's people? Go MJ." Not sure if Phelps and the rest heard. Obviously, it's kind of like the cafeteria in high school and middle school. You know, you got your different friend groups, and you know there's always those two groups that clash. Well, you got the NASCAR executives, the NASCAR people that are on one side of the lunchroom, and you got Michael Jordan 2311 on the other side, and they don't like each other. They're not going to be near each other in the lunchroom. So obviously everyone knows this is happening. There was a large media presence outside at the end of the trial. We'll look at some of those videos here in a bit. Yeah, there's been a lot with this thing. All right, here we go. Witness list. All right, first up, from the 2311 front row potential witnesses, Denny Hamlin, who has been called already. He's in the middle of his testimony. Michael Jordan, Curtis Polk, those are the three owners of 2311 Racing. Steve Lauletta, who is the president at 2311 Racing. Gene Mason, not familiar with that name, apologies. Bob Jenkins, who owns Front Row Motorsports, and Jerry Freeze, who I believe is the president of Front Row. He's someone higher up at Front Row. So obviously all these people of importance, once again, not sure who Gene Mason is. I probably should know that, but all these people are significant in the case. I'm assuming this is a 2311 or Front Row person. And then we got the potential witness list, and that includes these from teams not named Front Row or 2311. Richard Childress. Oh, please, God. Please let Richard Childress go into that courtroom and get questioned in front of the NASCAR executives who were texting nasty things behind his back. And please, I know it's not allowed to be televised, and I really should not be endorsing laws being broken here, but if someone just wants to record that, tape a phone on the wall. If we could get, let's do it legally. If there's a security camera in there and Richard Childress gets up there on the stand, dude, we got to see that. We have got to see that if that happens. I don't know if he's going to get called. I don't know how this works. Rick Hendrick, Roger Penske, Heather Gibbs, of course. She owns a part of Joe Gibbs Racing. She is Joe Gibbs' daughter-in-law. She was married to Coy, Ty Gibbs' mom. That is also correct as well. Cal Wells, who is with Legacy Motor Club. And then former team executive Steve Newmark. He was at RFK. Rob Kaufman, that name sounds familiar. Can't remember why. And then the Race Team Alliance's Jonathan Marshall. Then we get to the NASCAR executives witness list. Jim France, obviously, he runs NASCAR. Lisa France Kennedy, she is Jim's brother or sister, I believe. Ben Kennedy is, I believe, Lisa's son. I'm not sure of the family tree of the Frances and the Kennedys and all that. Brian Herbst, who's an executive. Steve O'Donnell, obviously, he is the CEO, president, one of those. Steve Phelps, Steve Phelps is the commissioner now. He used to be the president or the CEO. Those two are like outside of the France family. They are the two highest up. Scott Prime, he's an executive. Tim Clark, executive. Greg Motto, not familiar with that name, but I'm assuming he's an executive. John Probst, executive. Ron Drager, I'm assuming he's an executive. Pay-per-view, Richard Childress on the stand. Honestly, man, we don't get into politics on here, but you know that national debt number is a really big number. If they want to take a little tiny dent out of that national debt number, they should pay-per-view this court case. They should pay-per-view this trial, and hey, there you go. The national debt will go from however many trillion, 35 trillion, I don't even know what it's at. Maybe it'll go to like 34.99 trillion. But what do I know? I don't know anything. Please don't take me seriously. Denver, we'll answer that question at some point. That's comparing apples and oranges there. This isn't... Oh, I'm going to get copywritten if I don't scroll past those quick enough. Okay. We already talked about that. Here's the law on witnesses in the courtroom during other witness testimonies. Okay. This is actually much easier to read. I should have just done it like this. Well, actually, I'm blocking it a little bit. Here, hold on. See if you guys can see this. There we go. Okay, so the rule number 615. Man, who wrote all these rules? Why are there 615 of them? And how do you keep track of all six? There's got to be more than 615. Excluding witnesses from the courtroom, preventing an excluded witness's access to trial testimony. A. Excluding witnesses, all caps. At a party's request, the court must order witnesses excluded from the courtroom so that they cannot hear other witnesses' testimony. Or the court may do so on its own. But this rule does not authorize excluding a party who is a natural person, one officer or employee of a party that is not a natural person. What does that mean, a natural? If that officer or employee has been designated at the party's representative by its attorney. Any person whose presence at a party shows to be essential to presenting the party's claim or defense, or a person authorized by statute to be present. B. Additional orders to prevent disclosing and accessing testimony. How do they pick which words are all caps and which? I never thought the day would come that I would be live streaming a court case and reading out literal rules from courtrooms. But here we are. An order, A, operates only to exclude witnesses from the courtroom, but the court may also by order, oh great, we got more little indentations, prohibit disclosure of trial testimony to witnesses who are excluded from the courtroom and prohibit excluded witnesses from accessing trial testimony. I'm too dumb to process all that. Oh, look, this has nothing to do with the court case. As I said, these are my Twitter likes. You never know what you're going to see. It's Jeff Gordon and Silvio from The Sopranos. Yeah, I guess, yes, Stevie Van Zandt is also a musician, but to me, he is Silvio from The Sopranos. We can go through this later. This is a whole article. I have not actually fully looked at it yet, but we can do that. This is very important to the court case right here. Here we go. We already went over the witness list. Marty Smith, the Lane Kiffin saga. More football stuff. Aha, here we go. Back to the court stuff. Adam Stern, NASCAR on 2311 in Front Row Motorsports, presented opening arguments. 2311 in Front Row asserting evidence will show NASCAR engaged in anti-competitive behavior, while NASCAR asserted the teams only brought up antitrust charges after talks and their actions have signaled that they benefit from charters. So there were some talks during this. I think the judge was not happy because during the opening statements, both sides were trying to start arguing essentially. I think the opening statement they said was supposed to be here's what we're presenting, here's what we're accusing, for the 2311 side, here's what we're accusing NASCAR of, here's how we're going to break it down for you, here's what we think directly they did wrong. And I think there was something in there they messed up. I don't know, man. There's too much complications here. Court done for today. Opening statements in about 40 minutes of Denny Hamlin. Oh, yes. Denny Hamlin did cry in court today. So that happened. He got emotional talking about his dad and his parents sacrificing everything. His dad is sick right now. So, emotional times. Obviously, high stakes, high emotions. So, let's see. Hamlin's testimony continues on Tuesday. Here's what he said today. He said that they pay JGR. Remember, 2311, here's where I can tell you about stuff because I actually know what this means. 2311, they are a team. They are their own team. They have their own facilities. They have their own whatever. But they pay a fee. They pay an alliance fee to Joe Gibbs Racing for information, parts, all these other stuff, so they can be a little bit more competitive. Look at Legacy Motor Club as an independent Toyota team. Last year, 2024, they were bad. They were not good. They were running really far back in the pack. This year, they were a little bit more competitive. They had some top 10s, top 5s, but they still were not quite to the level anywhere close to Joe Gibbs Racing, who won 10 to 12, 13, 14, 15 races this year, was competing for the championship. They compete for the championship every year. But if you're a team that wants to immediately hit, you want to immediately be good, you're going to get an alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. Furniture Row Racing, they had an alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing, and they beat Joe Gibbs Racing. Well, Joe Gibbs Racing did not like that, if I remember this correctly, and they decided to rise the price of the alliance fee. Furniture Row Racing figured out they can't afford to run on their own. They can't afford to run without that alliance, or at least to be competitive enough, and everything started to fall through. The team ends up shutting down. So, Denny Hamlin said that 2311 pays JGR $8 million for the alliance, or $2.66 million, per car. 11 of the 19 original charter teams are no longer around. Quote, there's only one side going out of business. So obviously Denny Hamlin is referencing here that NASCAR is fine. They are fine. Financially, they're good. They're not going out of business. But teams are going out of business all the time. And this is specifically since the charter era began back in 2016, I believe was the year. It might have been 2015. It was 2015 or 2016 when the charter started. And Denny Hamlin references that 11 of the 19 teams who originally signed that deal are no longer in existence. And as I just referenced, Furniture Row Racing does not exist anymore. Levine Family Racing does not exist anymore. Germain Racing does not exist anymore. Did Starcom have a charter? Do we include them in this? Starcom? Maybe. 2015, 2016. What other teams have shut down? You guys got to help me out. The 9 people who are here, help me out. Who else has shut down in the time since 2015, 2016? I got to go through car numbers. Chip Ganassi Racing sold. I don't know if that counts. 'Stewart Haas Racing. How could I forget Stewart Haas Racing? Other teams. I'm just going through the numbers in my head. Yeah, I already said Levine Family Racing. They're one of the 5 I referenced. BK Racing, were they around 10 years? I forget when they stopped showing up. Do they even have a charter? 30, 31, 32. Go Fast Racing, that's one. Okay, Go Fast Racing. We already covered Stewart Haas. 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51. Wood Brothers are still around, David. 52, 53, 54, 55, Michael Waltrip Racing, once again, they're right on the border of when this whole thing started. Carl Long in the 66 car, were they a charter team at the beginning of all this? We already covered Furniture Row. I'm not going to get to them all. I spent too much time on that. And then they asked Denny Hamlin about it. I don't know what that has to do with anything in this court case. What does that have to do? I don't know who was questioning. I'm assuming this was the NASCAR side questioning him. What does Denny Hamlin's on-track results in the 2025 season, specifically Phoenix, what does that have to do with objection, relevance? I feel like a lawyer. Wow, that was so thrilling. That was the most thrilling moment of my life. But yeah, I don't know what that has to do with the court case. And he asked, can I plead the fifth? And I think they answered something like, you're not incriminating yourself. So I think he ended up having to answer. So now we get to the opening statement parts. So, no, JTG Doherty's around. They just have new ownership, KP. They are Hayek Motorsports now. New ownership and still the same number, still the same building, I think. And I think Brad Doherty's still involved somehow, some way. So they rebranded. They're still here. They're just a different name. Okay. Opening statements. So, Kessler, who is the attorney for 2311 in Front Row, he said that the emails and texts show anti-competitive strategy of NASCAR with Jim France, Lieutenants O'Donnell, Phelps, Prime, knowing the charter offers were unfair, which we have seen that in the text. Which, once again, I don't know what I need to stop doing that. Only reason 2311 is profitable is because Michael Jordan can get sponsors. That we will talk about this in a minute. Essentially, like every team in NASCAR is in the negative, or most of them, but because Michael Jordan has that pull and can get sponsors whenever he wants, he can get McDonald's, he can get DoorDash, he can get the Air Force, he can get Leidos, he can get... Now, I'm not saying Michael Jordan got every single one of these sponsors, but he helps. Anywho, so Kessler tried to simplify this thing. Obviously, if you come into this court case and you're getting words and terms thrown at you like charters, charter negotiations, sponsorship, NASCAR teams, next-gen car, third-party sources, alliances, like all these different NASCAR terms that if you don't watch NASCAR, if you don't pay attention, you're going to be sitting there like, I'm assuming they have pens and notepads to write some of this down. But Jeffrey Kessler tried to simplify it, put it in everyday person terms for things you actually do in your life. So he likened a charter to leasing a home. It can be taken away from you at the end of the lease. Makes sense. He compared team owners to nurses who really want to be nurses, and if only one hospital is in the town, you must take that hospital's offer to work. So he's essentially saying there that these teams want to compete, but they only have one opportunity to compete. That's in NASCAR if they want to be in a stock car racing series. So, like if I was a nurse in the middle of Montana and I really wanted to work in this one town, but there's only one hospital, I don't have a choice. I have to go to that hospital. Here's some of the video. This is from Adam Stern. Obviously, big camera group surrounding Michael Jordan. Let me tell you, that is his Secret Service right there. He has Suburbans. If that's the guy I think it is, that's like his head of Secret Service maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. There's this one big dude that follows him around that I've seen at the track, and he's scary. I'm sure he's a nice person, but, you know, if you're protecting Michael Jordan, that's I think you're supposed to be scary. But there's Michael Jordan getting into a car. See everyone just following him. That guy's got like a what's it called? A fanny pack. What else? Looks like that's it. See, everyone scatters. As soon as Michael Jordan leaves, there he goes. Oh, and then we have this quote from Denny Hamlin. Your costs aren't covered to put on their show. And that's what he was describing in terms of the charter system and and the fairness of it. So, yeah, Denver, he does. Like, dude, literally, if Michael Jordan's at a race and you walk down the pit road, you have to, like, maneuver through so many people. I mean, they rope off whatever pit box he's at, but it's insane how much you have to maneuver around because there's just a huge crowd at whatever pit box he's at when he's at a race. I can't imagine what it's like in the streets. Like, especially when you know where he's going to be. You know he's going to be at the courthouse. Oh, my goodness. But yeah, here's Bob Pockers talking about how, look at all these cameras, local news people. I'm sure there's some national news. I like to hope there is. I mean, this is a big deal for NASCAR. Hopefully the national news is getting on it. Opening statements, much of same arguments heard before. 2311 front row attorney stressed. Emails. We already read this. Oops. Okay, here we go from Matt Weaver. This is a long one, but this is good. This is really good information from Matt Weaver here. The court is let out for the day. Denny Hamlin was on the witness stand, but the plaintiff's examination was only partially completed prior to the end of the day. They will resume tomorrow. We already know that. Notable quotes. Did you graduate? Denny Hamlin. They gave me a diploma. How did your most recent season go? Denny. Can I plead the fifth? I don't think anyone is prosecuting you. Denny. I was leading the championship race with 3 to go. The caution came out. I lost. Hamlin seemed to strategically bring up that teams are having to compete with NASCAR for sponsorship and did so 3 times. I think this is a very interesting point right here that honestly I had not thought about. But when we go and look at NASCAR sponsorship, or when we talk about it here in a minute, it actually makes a lot of sense. Buying Germain, they lost their sponsorship to NASCAR and went out of business. Okay, here's the first one. Geico. Everyone remembers Germain Racing because of the Geico number 13. Casey Mears drove it for a number of years, and then Ty Dillon took over that car, I think, in 2018. And then they shut down. They lasted 3 more years after that, I think, once Ty Dillon jumped on board. But the Geico 13, me growing up a NASCAR fan from 2010 onwards or whenever they existed, the Geico 13 I always knew was Casey Mears. It was the same paint scheme for the most part. You'd every once in a while see a one-off paint scheme, a camo paint scheme, or, what was it, 2020? They had the Hump Day paint scheme with the camel. And Geico ends up leaving the team, and that as a result, that was it. They didn't have funding. They had to shut down. They sell their charter to 2311. Well, Geico, after that, becomes one of the premier sponsors. Remember, NASCAR used to have a sponsorship program in place where there was someone that sponsored. They were the title series sponsor. It was the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series, the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. Well, now it's just the NASCAR Cup Series, but there are premier partners and they get benefits and they get all this branding all over the track, all over their facilities. It's Busch Light, Coca-Cola, Geico, and Freeway Insurance just jumped on board. It used to be Geico, ironically enough. Geico is now gone. But Geico ends up going to sponsor NASCAR itself as opposed to a team. And that is what that is in reference to. And I did not really think about that. All these teams are competing with each other for different sponsors. We see sponsors jump across teams and stuff like, let me think of an example. Busch Light, perfect example. Busch Light used to sponsor Kevin Harvick, Stewart Haas Racing. They jump over to Trackhouse, Ross Chastain. They're now on the one car. Other examples, I think there was a year or two that Nationwide sponsored Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Then they jumped over to Dale Earnhardt Jr. at Hendrick. So we've seen sponsors jump from team to team, but this is essentially saying the sponsors that the teams are competing for with each other, they're also competing with NASCAR up here. You got the teams down here fighting for scraps, fighting for sponsors. But then above them, NASCAR is also trying to get their own money because they're a business as well who needs sponsors. So you're fighting from every angle. You're fighting NASCAR, you're fighting Team A, Team B, Team C, Team D for all these sponsors. So it's quite exciting. Budweiser to Menards. Okay. What does Denny do at 2311? He's the competition and sponsorship, where he again brought up competing with NASCAR. Why did 2311 spend so much on Airspeed, which is their shop, their building, their hub, whatever you want to call it? Sponsorship. They wanted to attract sponsorship. Here we go. Quote from Denny. First, I have to fend off the series. If a new sponsor wants to come in, NASCAR will go after them. I have to fight them. I have to fight other teams for them. I have to fight them for employees. So as I was saying earlier, you're fighting another team. You're fighting this team, that team, that team, that team. And then you're also fighting NASCAR for all of these sponsors. That is what Denny Hamlin is saying. Denny cried when asked about how he got started in NASCAR because he brought up, quote, my dad, he's in bad health. More talk about the cost of the to field just the car, $20 million, and how much this charter provides, which he said $12.5 million. So I'm assuming this is over a year. Correct me if I'm wrong. So if it costs $20 million to field a car and you're only getting $12.5 million, I am no business expert, but that sounds like $7.5 million in the red. Obviously, there's other things like that you could, sponsorship and whatever. Anyways, does he think the charter agreement is fair? Quote, if the terms were fair, so many teams wouldn't have gone out of business. Only one side is going out of business, which we already talked about that quote. Denny says NASCAR controls their costs and it fluctuates due to mid-season rule changes, which sometimes cost $1.5 million per car on international races. That's where the day ended, and we'll pick up tomorrow. Leaving court, Jeffrey Kessler didn't say anything, and Michael Jordan said no comment because he's been advised to give no comment. And then here's a little video of everyone stalking MJ. He's got a big notebook. Oh, my goodness. So many people. Anywho. What else? What? I forgot about this one. Okay, I gotta listen to audio on this. I haven't actually listened yet. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. This is what that's actually really funny. Michael Jordan's in court, but unfortunately someone's dog pooped on the sidewalk and he had to avoid it. That's really funny. We talked about this already. I think we talked about that already. Okay, here's some good stuff. Here's some good juicy stuff. At the end of the day, of the first day of this antitrust lawsuit, NASCAR sent out a message with its 3 biggest takeaways from the day from Joseph Strigley. Strigley? If I pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry. 1. The teams asked NASCAR for the charter system, negotiated with NASCAR, and agreed to all of its terms, including commitments to be all in to grow the Cup Series. NASCAR kept its word to the teams, paying every dollar owed to teams over the course of 9 years. Number 2. Excuse me. None of the allegedly anti-competitive conduct raised in the lawsuit in court today were raised during the 2+ years. Of negotiations, which consisted of 70 meetings, correspondence, and drafts of the 2025 charter agreement. In addition, 2311's September 6, 2024 letter to NASCAR explaining why it would not sign the 2025 charter said nothing about alleged anti-competitive conduct, and the same is true of Front Row's letter to NASCAR explaining why it would not sign the 2025 charter agreement. Number 3, if the system is unfair, anti-competitive, and below market, why did 2311 buy a charter not once, not twice, but 3 times? And why did Front Row Motorsports buy, sell, and lease its own charters multiple times? And why did they want them forever? Remember, teams received charters for free, and now they're worth over $45 million. So this is obviously NASCAR's counter argument They're being accused of being anti-competitive. They're accused of being a monopoly, and here are some of their reasonings and why they're not. Hey, you started out with these charters. You didn't have to pay anything for them. Well, they're being sold for $45 million now. Sounds like a pretty good bargain. And then they also bring up the point that when these teams decided not to sign the charter agreement, they did not immediately say that they were anti-competitive. I don't know what the legality is on that. The teams that with the charter system. Blah, blah, blah. So NASCAR is essentially saying they honored their word here, and that the teams asked them for the charter system. They obliged, and then that they decided to keep their words to the teams. They paid every dollar that was owed to them, things like that. So, yeah. Here we go with another NASCAR quote. NASCAR has worked tirelessly for nearly 8 decades to give fans a thrilling and unforgettable experience while also ensuring that teams have a contracted revenue stream, guaranteed weekly racing entries that deliver sponsorship dollars and long-term equity value. That's what we are in court to protect for the sport, the teams, and the fans. John E. Stevenson Jr., who delivered the opening statement for NASCAR, put it, it's too big of a word for me. Why are we here? So obviously NASCAR does not think this should be going on. This lawsuit, I mean. Hold on. Grant, welcome. Hello. Welcome. Hi. We're talking about lawsuits today. We're talking about legal things. Yeah, legal stuff. I am not an expert on the law, but I'm an expert, a self-proclaimed expert on NASCAR, and boy, I guess it's over here in a couple weeks. That's one thing. One interesting thing from today is we got witness lists. No Speedway Motorsports executive will be a witness in this case. Only non-NASCAR owners. Roger Penske. I thought that was interesting too. A lot of the different things referenced in all the documents that have come out in the text is that NASCAR controls a lot of things. Speedway Motorsports is one of the things they do not own. But obviously them and Speedway Motorsports have a close relationship. Speedway Motorsports owns Texas, Bristol, Sonoma. They now own Dover. They own Nashville Super Speedway. They own Atlanta. We don't have to go through the whole list. Basically, almost every track that ends in Motor Speedway they own. New Hampshire is in that. Obviously, Indianapolis is independently owned. That is a Motor Speedway that's not owned by them. But SMI owns a lot of tracks, but they are not going to be a part of this trial. So that is very interesting. Okay, Grant. Sure. Sounds good. And more important stuff, the Circa Survivor. We are down to... So who lost yesterday? The Rams lost. So four entries are out. So we're down to 45 entries. I don't even know what aren't the Patriots playing tonight? Who are they even playing? I don't know, man. They're playing the Giants and they're up big. So, okay, that is going to survive. Good for them. As I get an advertisement for a sports book. It's just the story of 2025 at this point. Yeah. Okay. Back to we're at the end. Wow, that was quick. FRM owner here. Oh, yes, I did say I wanted to talk about this earlier. So, Front Row Motorsports owner Bob Jenkins in his deposition said he has lost $60 million in the last 10 years and over $100 million overall on his NASCAR team operations. So, this is back to the original point that all the other teams in NASCAR have lost a bunch of money and they're never in the plus. Jeff Gordon a few years ago said that Hendrick Motorsports hasn't turned a profit in I don't know how long. And then, NASCAR is trying to prove on the flip side that 23XI, they have made a bunch of money. They have been in the profit. They've been in the plus. They've been in the green. Well, 2311 is saying that's the Michael Jordan effect, which we've already kind of talked about. So, well, Grant, you have 0 fantasy basketball championships. I am on a championship hangover. We are not the same. But yeah, that's all I got. Unless let's see what else Bob Pockers has to say. He knows everything. So, oh yes, it cost $35 million to build the 2311 shop. It's a lot of money. But I've heard that that facility is extremely fancy. I think that's it. Yeah. F1's getting spicy, so that's neat. That's all I got really. This wasn't that long of a stream. I thought this might be a little bit longer, but what are we at here? Only doesn't tell me. Did YouTube do another stupid update where it doesn't tell me how much it's going? I hate YouTube sometimes. I mean, YouTube's great. They don't make any mistakes on the rules, right? I don't know. I'll just assume. Oh, it was at 45 minutes. We've been going about 45 minutes, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Well, I don't know. This stream was a stream. We haven't done any like non-supercar watching streams in a while, and this felt like a good reason to revive the Monday after this year. Obviously, we have a lot of other stuff. I'm not going to guarantee that we do this every single night. We might do this once a week. We might do this a couple times a week. I don't know how often we're going to do this. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else got anything? F1 championship is spicy right now. Realize how this is a real championship and it's not forced drama. Look at this. 24 races and we have 3 people in contention for the championship without it being forced, whereas NASCAR has to force it. I hate the playoffs, man. Just went out of my way to crap on the playoffs there. So that's all I got tonight. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed and